This PowerPoint presentation covers various features in PowerPoint. On this specific slide, we're looking at the various layouts that are available. Each time you insert a slide, a pop-up menu will appear. The choice blank layout gives you the greatest flexibility in terms of individualizing what you'd like to place on each slide. The rest of this presentation will focus to some extent on using the Shapes feature in PowerPoint. To access the shapes, look for the Insert menu at the top of the screen. Then scroll down until you see the option Shapes. Once clicked on, a pop-up menu will appear. This menu allows you to see all shapes that are available, which can be done by scrolling on the right. Or if you'd like to see a subgroup of shapes, you can use the up and down arrows to select a category. For the sake of demonstration, I have left on all the shapes. In scrolling down, I've looked for a shape that looks like a circle. I have clicked on this shape and dragged it and dropped it in the position where I'd like it to be on the slide. Once it's inserted, you can change the shape of the particular object. You do it similarly to how you would change the size and shape of a picture. Simply click on the shape and then use the sizing handles to resize the shape. In this case, the circle has been changed into an ellipse, as you can see. You also can format the shape. For instance, change the color inside the shape, as you will see on the next slide. To format any of the shapes, you need to go to the main Format menu in PowerPoint. Under the Format menu, there is a submenu for shapes. Once that feature is selected, a drop-down appears as you see on this slide. In this case, I'm using the first option called Fill, and I'm asking PowerPoint to replace the blue colored fill in the circle with no fill at all. Once that's done, as you'll see, an outline of the circle remains. The color of that circle and its thickness can be changed, as you will see in the next slide. I have now used in the Format Shape menu the option called Size. Once I pick that option, a menu does appear, although you're not quite seeing it on this slide, that will let you change the thickness of the line. In this case, I have made the thickness of this outer circle larger, as you can see. I basically have changed it to 2 point. Proceed to the next slide for more details. Okay. On the slide menu, there are various options. You can change the color of a circle, of the line on the circle. You can do a number of other kinds of things, as you'll see if you proceed to the next slide. Sorry, that slide is missing from the presentation, but please proceed further. Okay. In the Shape menu that we originally looked at the beginning of this presentation, if you were to scroll down to the bottom, you would see that there is an option called Action Buttons. Take a look on the right to see where that is located. Action buttons can be handy if you want to insert icons that represent hyperlinks. In this case, for instance, if you were to insert the icon that looks like a home onto a slide, that would become an action button, which would tell the viewer, once clicked on, please go back to the first slide. You've seen this home icon perhaps in some PowerPoint that are done to create Jeopardy games, and clicking on the home button would bring the viewer back to the original game board. Another action button is the question mark, and this can be used to direct a viewer to a particular slide that would give more information. The other action buttons and their meanings are rather intuitive. One of those action buttons will take your viewer to the next slide. The other one will take the viewer back to the previous slide. On the bottom row, you see an action button that will take the viewer to the very last slide in the presentation, and one that would take the viewer to the very first slide in the presentation. The last action button is simply showing go back to the previous slide. When these hyperlinks are inserted as action buttons on a slide and clicked on, a menu does appear, and you can really actually set that menu so the action buttons link to wherever you might want them to go within that presentation, or for that matter into another PowerPoint presentation. So the home button really can direct a viewer possibly to another PowerPoint presentation. After a slide presentation has been fully created, you might like to create transition effects between slides. That is, as slides come on the screen, you might want them to appear with a certain effect. It is advisable that if you'd like to add transitions to a PowerPoint, that you view all the slides together on the screen. This is done by going into the View menu and selecting Slide Sorter View. Your slides will appear on the screen looking like a storyboard. You simply click Transitions, click on the slide you want to add a transition to, and look at the various options. In addition to the ones that you see displayed on this screen, there are more effects that can be chosen, and I have an arrow pointing to show you that if you click there, you'll see more options. You need to be careful when adding transitions. You don't want your presentation to look chaotic. So most people recommend using a subtle transition and keeping with that transition throughout the presentation. Of course, there may be reasons on occasion to change the transition from one slide to the next. For instance, slide 4 to 5 in a particular show, you might want a certain type of transition at that point, but not want to use it elsewhere. Thank you for listening. I've only covered a few of the PowerPoint options in this presentation. One was how to insert layouts, and then numerous other slides covered the Shapes menu, and then lastly, adding transitions. Thank you very much for listening.